Committee on Senate Files 171, 172 will please come to order. I have an opening statement, and with the indulgence of the co-chair, I will lead with that. One of the things that we treasure about Iowa is that we have a strong sense of community. People in Iowa's communities pull together and try to make things work. Not that we always agree. Sometimes in the PTA or in our church groups we have disagreements. But when we do, we usually find a way to split the difference and make things work. So in that Iowa tradition, that's what we propose today. Split the difference. The Senate passed a bill to give schools a 4% increase next year. The House offered only 1.25%. Today we propose a compromise of 2 5/8%. That's 2.625%, and it's right in the middle. Schools now need the final answer. They need to certify their budgets by April 15th. Local school boards are already looking at approving budgets that mean more crowded classrooms, fewer course offerings, fewer extracurricular activities, and higher property taxes. We can help. We will meet you halfway. We can do it by working together, by compromising, by meeting each other halfway. A 2 5/8 increase is $55 million more for Iowa students. It is a compromise worth making. This is an affordable compromise, especially given the projected 6% increase in state revenues next year. We still believe that our kids need and deserve more. If you've been listening to your school superintendents and teachers, you know that's true. They are consistently telling us that they need 4% this year and next to be able to give our kids the education they need to be competitive and self-supporting in the 21st century. 2 5/8% is treading water. You know what happens if you tread water for too long. You start to sink. Our rankings and test scores relative to other states have been sinking for 20 years, and it's because our lack of funding has been pulling them down. Other states have been making the investments to keep their kids afloat, but we haven't. But to get this resolved, we are offering a sincere and legitimate compromise. Split the difference. It's a workable compromise. So how about it? I move that the Conference Committee adopt a state percent of growth for 2015-2016 of 2 5/8%. Representative Steckman.
Yes, I would like to second that motion. I think our schools have waited long enough. As you stated, they're trying to do their budgets, and I think it's time for us to show that we can act like adults and let them know what their budget's going to be for this coming year.
It's been moved and seconded that the Conference Committee adopt a state percent of growth 2 5/8%. Discussion. Senator Bowman.
Thank you, Senator Cornbach. You know, my theme has been the same from the beginning. This is about not losing educational opportunities for our kids across the state. And that's my interpretation of what will happen at 1.25. This proposal will at least allow most of our schools to maintain the status quo in regard to educational learning opportunities. So with that, I'm going to support the proposal. I would like to add to my friends around the table, this job doesn't come natural to me, being adversarial. And so, you know, my commitment to all of you is common ground, is to work together. I don't think I've ever resisted anyone in this room when approached with a sincere policy idea. And so I hope that you give this proposal serious consideration. I think it's, you know, a good faith effort in trying to reach this common ground so we can move forward, just like last week when we moved forward with the school start date. Not everybody was happy about that, but reaching common ground, we found a way to solve problems. And so this is similar to that, and we'll support this proposal. Thank you.
Senator Gronstal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, yesterday I thought long and hard. I thought it was a mistake the other day for the House to outlaw the possibility of year-round high schools. And that issue was in front of us in the Iowa Senate, back from the House on the school start date. And I thought long and hard the night before about whether, as you know, I filed a motion to reconsider on that. I thought long and hard about that. And I said to myself, you know, it's not a place where you say my way or the highway. That isn't going to work as long as we have Democrats in control of the Senate and Republicans in control of the House. So even though I didn't like it and I thought there was bad policy in it, yesterday I withdrew my motion to reconsider on that issue. The bill goes to the governor, and now school districts know when their calendar is. I really think it's time to let school districts know where their budget is. Frankly, a much more important issue than the one I just mentioned. And I'm serious. I thought to myself, you know, I could hold out, I could try and bargain, I could try and find a way to leave open the possibility that high schools could do year-round high school if they wanted to experiment with that. But I said, no, this isn't a place to do my way or the highway. It's a place to accept differences, work together, find common ground. I think 2.2 5/8%, I think that's too low. I don't think it improves education. Senator Bowman made that point. I don't think it improves education. It means there will be fewer opportunities for kids, but at least at 2 5/8%, we'll hold our own statewide. There's always some winners and losers in school districts, but we will hold our own statewide in terms of opportunities for students in this state. This proposal splits the difference between the House and Senate. It won't make the rest of the budget easy, but it also won't make the rest of the budget impossible. It really is time for us to tell school districts how much they're going to get in their budget. We've told them when they can start. Now let's tell them how many resources they have. I think this is a sincere, legitimate effort at compromise. Probably takes our folks a little further than they'd like to go. But it's a real effort to find common ground and let schools move forward in the state of Iowa.
Mr. Co-Chair, Representative Soderberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the compromise proposal. It should be no surprise that the House Republicans have adopted and have lived by budget principles for 5 years. The budget principles are making sure that we do not use one-time money to fund ongoing programs, that we do not exceed the ongoing revenue with ongoing expenses, and that we will not purposely underfund programs or services. So we've got a difficult task in front of us, and that is balancing a budget with the revenue that the Revenue Estimating Conference provided us a couple weeks ago. If you look at the difference between what was spent last year versus the fiscal year 16 estimate, we have $180.9 million of new revenue to fund all the programs within the state budget. With the proposal, the counteroffer, if my numbers are right, with supplemental state aid, as the House has already taken action at 1.25, it would double the cost of supplemental state aid. I think the total cost with teacher leadership compensation, that would be $155.5 million if you add the two together. That gives us less than $26 million in total to fund the other very necessary programs such as Medicaid. And we all know that the Medicaid costs have skyrocketed over the last few years, and this year's, or fiscal year 16, is no exception, with the estimate being over $200 million in itself. We also question, whether this can be funded. Looking at future years, we want to do whatever we can to avoid across-the-board cuts and fulfill the promise that we make when we pass legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Speaker Paulson, Leader Upmeyer, Leader Dix, Representative Steckman.
I'm sorry to rise for a second time. There were a few things I had wanted to say before. I was hoping that this offer, I'm hoping it will be accepted. Just came out today, high school graduation rates are now still #1 in the country for Iowa. I don't know how much longer we can continue to expect our teachers and our administrators to keep doing what they're doing by giving them less and less. And I know you say it's more, but actually, when you juggle the numbers, maybe it looks like more, but it's not. I have these letters from kids from East High, and it just, I've been reading them today, and the things that are cut, that have been cut, that they're, they come to school for sports, they're buying all their own equipment. The kids that are kids are not joining because they can't afford to buy their own equipment. They're just struggling for necessities for our athletes, swimmers, rugby players. They don't have money to purchase clothing. And these kids understand that it takes money to run programs. They said our class sizes are getting bigger. The programs they're in, the ambassador program, the yearbook program, those will all be cut. And they're worried about that. They're worried about the class sizes being so big that they won't have that graduation rate that we have now and we're so proud of. So I really hope you consider, give due consideration to our request. The TLC, we brag about reform, and yesterday the governor was at the STEM conference talking about 21st century education. Well, the teacher leadership money, a lot of schools say, how are we going to do that when we can't afford to pay the teachers and to have the class sizes that will work for that reform that we passed? So as a retired educator, this just is so hard to continue to see us neglect public education.
Anyone else? Well, let me just give closing remarks on my motion. For the record, based on the updated figures from the Revenue Estimating Conference from a couple of weeks ago, we will, for the current fiscal year, be carrying forward about $400 million surplus in unobligated funds. This is above and beyond the roughly $700 million that are already in our statutorily full reserve funds. So there's money to make this work. We're offering a compromise. We're offering to split the difference. We're offering to move it forward here with a proposal that is not ideal for either side. But we're trying to do the responsible thing. We're trying to give an answer to our school districts so that they don't have to send out a tidal wave of pink slips in a week or two to the teachers to disrupt the workforce, to call into question the advanced courses that might be offered next year, the AP courses, the extra reading help that our students are going to need. We're offering to split the difference. We're offering to compromise. It's a reasonable, affordable proposal at 2 5/8%. I would ask, and just to be clear, the motion applies to both Senate File 171 and 172, both of the allowable growth bills. Would the Secretary or Clerk call the roll, please?